happened? What's happening?
Oh, everyone's being muted except for if you want to unmute, you press *7.
Oh, so we're muted. Okay. I didn't know the instruction about the dialing in on the computer, so I'll just listen today.
Okay, you should have just received another email with the link to get into
into
the PowerPoint.
Well, I didn't, so that's okay. I'll just listen this time. Hello?
Hi, yeah, you're still on.
Okay, well, because nobody was talking.
I'm just waiting for Alex to unmute.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So my name's Alex. I've worked for the association for 17 years, as Pauline said, and I'm very happy to be providing this webinar for all of you today. So I'm assuming that some of you, maybe many of you, are actual caregivers or have been caregivers of someone with dementia. Perhaps a few of you are professionals. That's fine. This curriculum is appropriate for everybody, and I hope that you get a lot out of it. So we'll go ahead and get started. So our focus is on helping caregivers. So I'd like to add in the very beginning that I too am a family member. I'm not just a professional. That my lovely, wonderful grandmother died of this disease many years ago, and I saw how challenging it was on my family to care for her. So I do have a heart for caregivers. I also lead a support group, a few support groups actually, and interact with caregivers on a regular basis. So the objectives for today, we're going to talk briefly, and I'm going to talk quickly about the cognitive changes that happen. PWD means with person with dementia, the goals of caregiving, the roots of caregiver stress. Also, we're going to cover something called caregiver cognitive restructuring. Don't let that scare you. We'll talk about it. And then the focus of dementia and caregiving with dementia, which is often living in the moment with them. Okay. So stress test. I'm going to read to you some questions. I only want you to keep track of the yes answers, all right? And then when we unmute halfway in, I'll ask folks how they rated. So the first question, do you feel like you regularly, do you feel like you have to do it all yourself and that you should be doing more? Withdraw from family, friends, and activities that you used to enjoy? Do you regularly worry that the person you care for is safe and contented? Do you regularly feel anxious about money and healthcare decisions? Do you deny the impact of the disease to yourself or others and the impact that it has on your family? Do you feel grief or sadness that your relationship with the person isn't what it used to be? Do you get frustrated and angry when the person continually repeats things and doesn't seem to listen? And do you have health problems that are taking a toll on you? All right, so keep track of your yes answers. We'll come back to that. All right, so dementia. This is the number one question we get here at the Alzheimer's Association, so I'm going to cover this. The difference between dementia and Alzheimer's is dementia is simply a group of symptoms, and the number one cause of dementia by far is Alzheimer's disease when we're talking about a person over the age of 65. So these are the big five. So memory, short-term memory loss. There's also language challenges, so difficulty understanding perhaps, difficulty speaking, reading, and writing. Executive function is a whole group of symptoms that we associate with perhaps a good executive might possess. So for example, someone who can organize themselves, foresee challenges and consequences. So they're really good at judgment, reasoning, focus, abstract thinking, and organizing themselves, and insight. insight into their strengths and weaknesses, which is pretty much gone, certainly by mid-stage and often even in early stage. Behavior challenges, what we typically see is anxiety, chronic anxiety, perhaps depression, and the behavior changes that come with that. And what we mean by visual spatial is perceptual challenges. So we can, our folks can have depth perception challenges. They can also have challenges around judging distance, color, and contrast. And can you see how a person who maybe has those symptoms first, that's one of the initial symptoms in the disease, how they might be a poor driver, even if they're truly early stage. So this is just to give you kind of a visual of PET scans, the living brain. So you see on the left the normal and then the Alzheimer's disease brain. This is someone with fairly advanced Alzheimer's disease. So you can see the black areas are often either quiet or fluid areas. The blue is definitely quiet parts of the brain, and the whole brain isn't supposed to be active all the time. But this is an example of a normally functioning brain, someone who's thinking, moving, relating to the world around them, and then obviously somebody with Alzheimer's who has profound challenges. I like to show something like this with these kinds of presentations to help folks really appreciate that this is a brain disease, that the person's behavior and their cognitive challenges are not willful, certainly past the early stage. By the time we get to mid-stage, that person truly is doing the very best they can. Okay, so the main work of the caregiver. You're responsible with managing daily life, so not just your life, and maybe you're also caring for children or spouses, other people in your world, and now you're caring for a person with dementia of some type, likely Alzheimer's. So keeping them, that person enjoyably involved in their day-to-day, managing behaviors, helping to help them remain calm and have a feeling of control. You're also managing resources, including your family resources, their resources for care, and hopefully you're also managing your own well-being and taking care of yourself. I'm probably preaching to the choir because you're here and you're aware of the need to take care of yourself. Well, we're certainly going to be talking about that. So what are the roots of caregiver stress and burden? Well, these are some of them. These are the big ones. So the level of functional disability, that refers to the person's physical challenges. Do they have trouble walking now? Are they more confused getting in and out of bed? So the physicalness of it. Also, dementia usually affects older people, so they may also have other health conditions, chronic pain, so dealing with that. Dealing with the cognitive challenges that come with Alzheimer's and other dementias. Was the person, in a spousal relationship, was the person the dominant partner? So, for example, if the wife was the dominant partner in the relationship, and now the husband is dealing with somebody who not only is the dominant partner and remains the dominant partner, but now has dementia and is making poor decisions. So that can be incredibly stressful. And then, of course, any problem behaviors. If the person is constantly repeating themselves, they're insisting on going out, they're insisting on driving, they're refusing to go to the doctor, things like that. Lack of social support. Many of you who are caregivers likely have seen friends and maybe even family going by the wayside. You're feeling more and more isolated. Lack of resources. Most people that we talk to here at the Alzheimer's Association aren't incredibly wealthy, and this is the most expensive disease in our nation and probably worldwide because of the challenges around maintaining other health issues. People with diabetes, for example, who are also forgetful and maybe forget to take their insulin or their other medications, or don't eat well anymore, or don't exercise. It can be incredibly expensive in terms of doctor's visits, treatments, day programs that we want them to go to, and of course premature institutionalism, so them going into some sort of facility, which are crazy expensive. Think for respite and certainly time to yourself. Caregivers' own ill health, especially with spousal caregivers. One study that we've looked at suggests that up to 60%, that's 60% of individuals, spousal caregivers, die or become incapacitated before the person with dementia. And likely all of these burdens and stressors that we're talking about are contributing factors. Lack of caregiver skills. If you are a caregiver for somebody with dementia, this is not judgmental. This is not a disparaging thing. It just is. Most people have not been trained in advance on how to take care and relate to a person with dementia. We teach a whole 6-week class on 12 hours on just changing your communication, changing your behavior, changing the situation and the environment to work better for everybody, including the person with dementia. It requires an entire new skill set, skills that most of us have not been taught in regular life. And then difficulty recognizing the effects of the disease and to accept that the effects are real. So the individual is more and more challenged. We hear this a lot, where especially in spousal, but we hear it in other caregiving relationships as well, as family members are just really challenged to understand and admit even to themselves, recognize even to themselves that mom is pretty impaired at this point. It's just so hard, and we look for the silver lining and we focus on the bright moments and maybe ignore or don't recognize the more challenging moments. So cognitive dissonance, what is that? That is when an individual embraces two opposing ways of thinking. So how does this fit into dementia? Well, we embrace that they are fine, especially in the earlier stages. They look fine. They probably look no different than they ever have. So you look at your person, they look healthy, they look strong, they on a superficial level certainly, they communicate well, they interact well, and you're just thinking, gosh, maybe they don't have this. Maybe they're okay. And then evening comes perhaps, maybe they are sundowning, or there's been some sort of upset, they have an illness, they have pain, someone close to them has died, and wow, we really see the changes. So they're fine, but they're not fine, and we embrace both ways of thinking, which don't agree and create suffering for ourselves. Letting go of the person with dementia, we let them, the person they used to be, go. We embrace who they are and what they can still do, but that challenge back and forth, the letting go but staying connected, can be so hard on families. Taking care of the person with dementia as opposed to, and in addition to, taking care of yourself. The person with dementia is gone but not gone. The person that you've known your whole life maybe is just not the same. They're gone, but they're here. They're right in front of you. The responsibility of taking care of another human being and all that entails. Also forgiving yourself for maybe not realizing, especially in the beginning, I hear this a lot from family members like, if I'd only known, I wouldn't have said, Mom, don't you remember? And Mom, why can't you remember? And Mom, what's the matter with you? You've always been able to do this or that. So forgiving yourself, maybe for the daily, you're challenged. I had one gentleman who called and said his mother kept asking over and over and over again whether or not he fed the dog, and he just lost his patience and yelled at his mom. Of course I did. I've already told you 10, 20 times. And then Mom cried, and he called and said, I feel so guilty. What do I do? Give me patience. And what I told him is, I can't give you patience, but we're going to teach you methods that work. So hopefully you won't be faced with this constant barrage of the repetitive questions. And please start right off the bat with forgiving yourself because you didn't know. All right. So let's talk about strategies. So we call this cognitive therapy. So I'm borrowing here from cognitive therapy. So some of my favorites are shoulding on oneself. So we do this all the time, myself included. I should have known better. I should do more or be able to do more. I shouldn't get upset with my person or with myself. Should statements can also be directed at other people or external events like he, your brother, the husband, whomever. He should be able to do that. Why can't brother stay with mom? Why isn't brother helping more? He should be helping more, for example. Or the whole situation. It shouldn't be this way. This isn't what we planned for at the end of our lives. These statements are not helpful. They reinforce a way of thinking and feeling. The way you think determines how you feel, which determines your behavior. So we need to start, this is cognitive therapy, we need to start by noticing how we're talking to ourselves, the statements that we're telling ourselves or telling others, and monitor them and push them away when we notice we're doing some of these things. They're not helpful. Black and white thinking. When things don't work out as well as you had hoped, you think about the experience. We try to think about the experience as a partial success or shades of gray and learn from it, as opposed to I'm stupid, this is never going to work, black or white thinking. So what we try to do, what we want to do is think about something as, all right, this piece of it went well, this piece of it I managed well, maybe what I need to do differently, and by the way, work with us or go to support groups or go to more education because we'll help you brainstorm. All of these are really good ways to learn about how to manage specific situations and make them better. But for us to look at something and think, all right, some parts of it went okay and other parts kind of fell apart, and I need to learn from that and try something different next time. Also, identifying the distortion. So back to what our self-thoughts. Write down some of the things that you tell yourself and look for the distortions. Is it black and white or all and nothing? Or are you overgeneralizing? Something didn't go well in one moment and you tell yourself that you're stupid or you're incapable or you can't do this. I'm a terrible person just because of one thing that maybe didn't go well. And labeling, which is some examples of what I was giving, calling yourself stupid or incapable or others stupid or incapable. Labeling is not helpful. So write down when you find yourself having these negative thoughts and look at them and recognize them for the distortions that they are. All right, so we're about halfway, and I want to do the Savvy Caregiving exercise with you, but I also want to pause just for a moment and field some questions if you have any, and get your caregiver stress check, get how many yes answers you had from that initial stress check. So Pauline, could you unmute us?
The conference has been unmuted.
Okay, so this is your opportunity. How many of you speak up if you're a caregiver and you answered 4 or more yeses to that stress test? Come on, don't be shy. Yeah? I see the hand raised. Yeah?
Yeah.
I bet you a lot of you did. Yeah. It's really hard. Being a caregiver for a person with dementia is incredibly hard. So let's forgive yourself and work on some of those things. Any questions or comments?
Yes, are we going to get into lifting your spirits? Because that's really what I need.
Are we going to get into what?
The topic, lifting your spirits.
Yes.
Okay.
Right now.
Okay, good.
Yes. I know, I've been talking about the negative so far.
Yeah, we
else?
get the background. I get the background. I've done okay.
Gotcha. We're spending the rest of the time on the lifting the spirits part. Any other questions or comments?
I have a question on the ill health, the caregiver ill health. Can you just repeat what you meant by that?
Oh, many caregivers, not all, but many are older, and they have their own health considerations as well. So maybe they're the ones who have diabetes or heart disease or chronic pain, and that just makes the caregiving situation so much harder. Also, chronic stress can make those that ill health so much worse.
You said
that's what I meant by that. Go ahead.
Okay, and that they pass before their person with dementia?
About one study suggests that 60% of spousal caregivers die or become incapacitated before the person with dementia.
Okay. Okay,
scary.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's a scary thought.
Okay, so I want to do this Savvy Caregiver exercise. We do this in the class that we teach. So what I want you to do...
The conference has been muted.
Me feeling words. So just feeling words like sad or happy or feeling about how you have felt, the range of emotions that you have felt in your caregiving life for a person with dementia. Go ahead, just shout them out.
Oh.
Are they unmuted?
The conference has been unmuted.
There you go. Shout them out.
Incompetent.
Oh, okay. Sad. Keep going.
Angry.
Horrified.
Angry, I got. What else?
Abandoned.
Frustrated.
Frustrated.
Depressed.
What was that? What was the last one?
Depressed.
Depressed. What else?
Shocked and horrified.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay.
Well, it's just on the other side of the border.
Any others?
These have all been so negative. Sometimes I'm hopeful.
Okay, good.
But anyway, yeah.
There are those moments that she's like before.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you because there's a gentleman. I hear a gentleman's voice in the background, and I can't hear the presenter.
I hear it too.
Okay, any other words?
I hear his words more than I hear yours. Some people don't realize that if they're having a conversation, others hear it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other words before we mute again?
Unpredictability.
No? Ah, okay.
Oh, that's a
Put
good
that
one.
in a feeling word. How does that make you feel?
Out of control.
Yeah, out of control because of the unpredictability. Not able to, frustrated, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Hopeless.
Hopeless.
Deserted.
Oh. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and mute you guys again so y'all can hear me.
The conference has been muted.
Okay, so I'm assuming that y'all can hear me. So what we're going to do is we're going to take those words. So I heard hopeless, deserted, incompetent, angry, frustrated, depressed, shock, horror, out of control, and then one person said hopeful. All right, so the majority of those words can be perceived as negative and powerless. By powerless, we mean when we feel that emotion, we feel like we don't have the power. It drains us of our energy, of the power. The exceptions are angry and hopeful. Angry is a powerful emotion, but it's often perceived as negative. And hopeful is typically perceived as a powerful emotion and positive. So the majority of the words that you gave me just off of the top of your head put you in, if we have a matrix, put you in the powerless and negative place. And that's probably why you're joining this webinar, because that is not where I or any of us want you to reside. You live in that powerless negative place, and you visit some of the other nicer places, the powerful, the positive and powerless, and positive is perceived as serenity. That's a wonderful place to be. So we want you to reside in one of those places and only visit these other emotions, angry, frustrated. They represent the range of emotions. They're human emotions. We all have them. But I want you to spend a lot more time in the positive ranges, positive powerful and positive powerless, which is also perceived as serenity. How do you do that? Well, we're going to talk about that. So the one way to get into the powerless positive area is acceptance. So you're going to, if this is you, if I'm talking about you, this is your work, is focusing on this shouldn't be happening. This disease has ruined my life or her life or all of our lives. Why did this happen to us? And focusing on this is happening. The reason why, at least part of the reason why you suffer, is because you're not accepting the life that you have right now. So Ann Davidson, who participated in my Savvy class years ago, has written 2 wonderful books on this very topic. Alzheimer's: A Love Story and A Curious Kind of Widow. Her husband of many years was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. He was a Stanford professor. I think he was 57 or 59, so very young. And she was working, she wrote 2 books about her experiences, and she talks a lot about this, about how she literally made herself sick because she refused to accept that their lives are completely different now. So how do we do that? There's lots of ways. Journaling is very helpful for many people. Taking good care of yourself, being out in nature, joining a support group, to talk openly about how you're feeling and what's going on. All of you likely have had challenges in your life, maybe some very big challenges, health or family or other things. What have you done historically to manage accepting that this is your new reality? And then focusing on what you can change, the serenity prayer, right? God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. You can't change the disease. You can change how it impacts you, some of it anyway, but you can't change that someone you care about deeply has the disease and you're a caregiver for that person. But there are things you can do. So what is your action step? What we talk about in Savvy Caregiver is focus on one thing that's dragged you down, that made you feel incompetent, angry, frustrated, depressed, deserted, hopeless, and out of control. One aspect, and focus on a plan. Focus on changing it. Even if that plan is not ideal. What I hear a lot, and I've been doing this for 23 years, what I hear a lot from family caregivers is, no one can take care of my mom the way I can. And maybe that's true. Maybe your level of care, because you know her so well and you're compassionate, you love her, etc., is excellent. But that is not the standard of care 24/7. The standard of care, at least part of the time, can be good. So maybe her going to a day program is a great idea. And maybe the barrier is you. Now maybe the barrier is mom. Maybe mom refuses to go. And if that's the case, in this specific example, I want you to call us if you're having trouble getting past that. I want you to go to a support group, and I want you to attend some of our other webinars on education, because we will coach you through that. I ran a daycare for 6 years, and almost always, we could get that person to daycare. So please, 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 even if it seems unattainable, insurmountable problem, please call us. We want to coach you through it, to help you with that. Okay, so that's just one example. More respite. Respite is a common issue. Folks don't get enough time away. And if you're constantly in the trenches, over time it's going to wear you down, and you're really not going to be your best caregiver. You may think that your caregiving is excellent, and maybe it is a lot of the time, but it won't be all the time, not without a break. So respite is huge. It's key. All right, let's move on. So if something is bothering you, I'm just going to read this. You'll have it. If something is bothering you, move toward it rather than away from it. A lot of us, like when we're experiencing disappointment, embarrassment, irritation, resentment, anger, jealousy, and fear, and we run from it, myself included. Instead of being bad news, these things are actually very clear moments that teach us where it is that we're holding back. They teach us to perk up and lean in when we feel we'd rather collapse and back away. They're like messengers that show us with terrifying clarity exactly where we're stuck. This is the very moment is the perfect teacher, and lucky for us, it's with us wherever we are. I've worked with many caregivers who have a really hard time leaning in, and when they should be leaning in. Now, sometimes it's okay to take a break from that acceptance and leaning in and run away and go to the beach if you can, or have lunch with a dear friend. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. But often our suffering comes from our own actions. Internally, we just either can't accept or are mired in all of the details. My caregiving situation is bad, bad, bad. My mother's angry all the time. She's calling me names all the time. It's just so awful for both of us. Nothing can be done. We get into that hopeless place. And if we just look at one piece, one small thing that we can change. For example, I just did a training for a bunch of professionals at El Camino Hospital. So this is very bad situations. We have a person with dementia at night, very confused, fearful, feeling out of control, and they don't know what to do as professionals. So what I coach them to do, by the way, everything we talk about, every solution, every way we coach, there's always exceptions. There's always going to be those that don't respond, which is why we talk about all kinds of different ways. I wish I could tell you one technique that always, always, always works, and then once you master that technique, you're golden, but it just isn't like that. Part of the reason why caregiving is so hard. So one of the techniques that I teach is from improvisation. In improv, we teach to always say yes, unless you're, the exception with dementia is unless you're being accused of something bad. So if you're not being accused of something bad, I'll try to always say yes, even if the rest of the sentence is no. For example, if the person is confused and disoriented at night and they're asking to go home, this is what's happening in the hospital. And truly, they're not home, okay, but they're asking to go home. Instead of the nurses telling them that they're sick and that the doctor will release them, reasoning with them, their family will be there soon, okay, that's not working because the first message that the person with dementia is hearing is no. And often that does not work. We need to say yes. So I want to go home. All right, I'll arrange it. In the meantime, I'm here for you, and your daughter should be here shortly. So if they are home and they're asking to go home, we agree. If what you're doing now is not working, so if what you're saying is, Mom, look at, this is your home. Look at all these things. They're all yours, and look at these pictures. This is a picture of you. If that's working, great. Keep doing it. But if it's not working, I want you to change your tactics. I want you to say yes. You say, okay, that's a good idea. It's been a while since we've been home. I'll arrange it. And then, hopefully, you can get the person settled down with their favorite cup of tea with honey or by changing the subject. I know I'm making it sound easy, but guess what? Sometimes it's this easy. The nurses have already gotten back to me. The training was just last week, and they're already calling me saying this works. So if it can work in the hospital where the person is hurting and on medication and there's noises and machines, and if it can work there and they're strangers, not even family, it can work anywhere. Now, will it work every time, all the time? Nope, it won't. And again, I encourage you, if you find yourself in a really challenging situation that these techniques don't work, please, 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 please call us. We want to help you. So This is a painting, painted watercolor by an individual in our Memories in the Making program several years ago. I am the proud owner of this painting. This painting was done by someone with no art experience and who was in mid-stage, very confused. She could not tell you where she was. This was through a day program that she attended. But look at what she paints. There's something beautiful inside of her. She called it a fruitful life. This is positive energy. This is growth. This person, even though she has difficult moments, has a lot of light in her, a lot of warmth in her. And if we can bring that out, we all win. I like to show this when I do trainings because there's a lot. You see the negative person who's screaming at you, who's saying they want to go home, or saying you're not their daughter, or saying you're bossing them around and they're so tired of being bossed around, or refusing to bathe, or whatever it is. But this is often, not always, but often what we see as professionals. So I want to remind you of that there's still a person in there. They're not maybe the person they once were, but there's still a lot that we can work with. So, living in the moment. I like this quote. I love Mark Twain. So, living in the moment. If we can master this, we are so far ahead of the game. If we can be with them where they are. So I'm going to give you an example. Years ago when I was at the day program, I used to drive the van one day a week. And I remember this story, and this was almost 20 years ago. I was driving. I had one woman in the back. Her name was Ann. She had dementia, moderate dementia, very confused at times. But she was sitting behind me, and I was focused on where we were going, the route, the next person I had to pick up, all the responsibilities I had to do that day. Don't hit a pedestrian, follow the laws of the road, all of that, right? The traffic, et cetera, et cetera. I was not paying attention to really anything else. And she said from the back seat, "Alex, do you see that tree?" It was this time of year in the fall. And she was looking at a beautiful liquid amber tree. And it had all these wonderful colors. And she's like, "Do you see the red and the gold and the orange and the green? And do you see how the sunlight is just streaming through those leaves? That's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen." And in that moment, I thought to myself, who's the person who's demented in this car? It must be me, because she's thoroughly enjoying this simple, free moment, something that God or nature, pick one, provided to all of us. Now, I kept driving. I acknowledge it, and kept driving because I had things to do and places to be. But I would like to think if that happened again, that I would stop and at least take a moment and enjoy that with her. So, sitting beside the person. I know some of us have a lot to do, but if we can do this, or have others help us to do this with our person, we're going to have so much better outcomes in terms of their quality of life, and their behaviors, and our quality of life. So life story, talk about their interests. Talk about their dog. If they love dogs, their favorite dogs. I had a person I work with, she used to do dog shows, and she loves talking about that. And so I try to redirect her when she's in a hard place. I try to actually talk about it all the time because she loves talking about it when I was at the daycare. But if she was having a particularly hard day, she was anxious or irritable, we would talk about her dogs and her dog shows. If they like baseball, hey, isn't it? I think the World Series is starting today. Reading out of the local paper or magazine, but try to focus on just the positive if you can. Playing a hand of cards if that's enjoyable, a game of dominoes, and you don't care about the rules, by the way, unless they're really noticing the rules. Just kind of go and play. Sensory experiences. Our folks are very sensory. They're less about judgment, thinking, reasoning, and more about sensory experiences. We have 5 senses. Let's appeal to those. Touching. Our folks don't get touched very much. As we're older, we're wrinkled, we're just not cute babies anymore. People don't touch us very much. And I value, as a person who's older and as a person with dementia, I really value, most people really value that. So touch them. Apply hand lotion, hold hands, give hugs, give kisses when appropriate. Reminisce. What was it like when you were growing up in New Orleans? Now, you already know your person. This is a positive story. Okay, you're not going to go someplace that's negative. For example, I heard a story recently from a professional. They were doing an evaluation, and they just asked them where they grew up. And they grew up in Hawaii, and they were there during the bombing of Pearl Harbor, and they lost friends, and I mean, oh my gosh, it turned into a really negative story that the professional had a very difficult time getting them out of. So you were only going to talk about positive things. I worked with a gentleman. He grew up along the Mississippi River, and he had a painting of the Mississippi in his house. So whenever I sensed that he was going down, he was getting negative or anxious, I would point at the painting, and I'm like, is this a Mississippi? Did you grow up there? And he would tell me lovely stories about ice skating in the winter and swimming in the summertime and adventures, the whole fin thing. But he said that his raft never floated for very long, and we would laugh. Appreciate what's all around you, nature, music, art, poetry, and the gift of a smile and a laugh. Use humor. Humor works. We're not laughing at them. We're laughing with them. So, thriving. How can we thrive? Accept help. Some of you here on this phone call maybe have refused help. We've all done it. When I was a young parent, my mother-in-law or someone would say, oh, I'll take care of the babies. I'd love to. And I'd be, no. Thinking, I'm the mom, I'm the one who's supposed to do this, I'm the parent. And after a while, it was like, Alex, what are you doing? When my mother-in-law said, let me take care of the babies, by my second child, I was handing them off. Here you go. So I could have time away. Accept. Try to say yes to help. So take a break without feeling guilty. This is hard to do, but practice makes proficient. You'll get better at it as you take more breaks. In the beginning, you'll feel terrible, as I did as a young parent. But no, keep taking those breaks. Eat well. We all know what that looks like. Accept help. Be willing to try new things. Be willing to try the daycare. I'm working with a person right now. He's a lovely man. He's been married, the second marriage. He loves his wife. His wife is pretty high functioning socially, but she scored a 9 on the mini mental, which is a 30-point scale. She's well into the dementia. But he sees how lovely she is in terms of how polite when she interacts with folks, when she smiles and asks you how you are. And when he took her to see a daycare recently, he was like, no, this is not for me. Some people are sleeping. Some people can't even talk. Well, yes, true. And yet daycares are really good at matching people up with people with similar skill sets. And I know for a fact that the day program that he took her to, there are higher functioning folks, and we just need to link her up with those folks. But it's a huge barrier for him. Another family obviously is going to have to take her because I don't think he will. Exercise. Take good care of yourself. A lot of benefits to exercise. Socialize when you can. Say yes to those invitations. And again, be willing to have someone else take care of your loved one if at all possible, including paid help. There are good people out there. And here we go again, accept help. It's on there on purpose 3 times because the marketer tells you have to say something at least 3 times for people to do it and remember it. So here we go. Alex, I don't have any time to take care of myself. Look at my calendar. My calendar kind of looks like that, but yeah, you do. You have to write it in your calendar. Some people have to do that. So I want you to write in exercise at 3 o'clock and then do it if that's what you need to do in order to do it, because our calendars fill up quickly, and if we don't write in self-care, it won't happen. In the Savvy Caregiver class and in my support groups and in any environment where I'm leading, I always ask, what nice thing have you done for yourself in the past 7 days? And if people even have to pause and think about it, okay, I'm immediately worried. I'm worried. So here, this quote is from a study at Stanford. 4 pleasurable activities a day, consciously chosen and deliberately done, keep the blues away. This is a quote that they came up with that represents a longitudinal study that included hundreds and hundreds of people on what we can do as caregivers to keep the blues away. In other words, reduce the odds of depression, and when we suffer from depression, that it's limited, that we're able to overcome it. And this is what came out of that study. 4 pleasurable activities a day, consciously chosen and deliberately done, keep the blues away. Now, these don't have to be big things. They don't have to be, I went to Hawaii. They can be, I had a phone conversation with a dear friend, and it was lovely, for an hour. Or I went for a walk, and the weather was lovely, and I went for a walk outside. It was great. Small things, taking 15 minutes to read a poem or, stretch or take a little nap, whatever is healing, whatever is good for you. But those pleasurable activities, even though, and I'm included in this, I like it when something is organized. I like it when something gets done. It's something off of my shoulders, off of my plate, right? But I encourage families, I encourage caregivers that you can't count those in those 4 pleasurable activities. Sure, I feel great when the taxes are done. I feel great when I balance my checkbook, one less thing to worry about, when I paid my bills. But that does not count under the 4 pleasurable activities. It needs to be truly doing something that feeds your soul, that helps you to relax or energizes you. Okay, so here we're going to stop. I'd like, Pauline, if you would, to unmute. And I'd like to hear first some things that you do for yourself that you know works. And then we can open it up more broadly. So Pauline, can you unmute?
The conference has been unmuted.
Thank you. What do you do to take care of yourself?
I go swimming.
Yay. Wonderful.
Go to the gym.
Yay. Exercise,
well,
great.
I do water fitness and yoga.
Yay.
Yay.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I signed up in a
What
massage club, so I get 2 massages a month.
Oh.
Yay.
Ooh.
Nice.
That sounds awesome. I'm gonna write that down.
I'm writing that down too. Thank you. I walk my dog.
Oh, wonderful. What else? Don't be afraid, for those of you who don't do this, is meditate.
Hello?
Yes. I can hear you.
How do you get to do all these things? Who takes care of the person while you're doing them?
Respite. So you either have friends or family, you have adult daycare, or paid people who come into your home. And if you're having challenges...
Don't you create a lot of liability having people come into your home?
Okay. So what about adult day programs?
Okay.
I want you to embrace new ideas. This may be a totally new idea. My mom's not ready for the adult day program. I've heard that. I wish I had a nickel for every time I heard that. I'd be rich.
I think it would be very depressing to go for a person to go there.
It's
well,
awesome
do you have any family members that can help you?
Yes, but yes, they do now and then. Yes, it can't be her all the time.
So, in regards to family members, what often happens is family say, "Mom, I want to help you," or "Brother, I want to help you. Tell me what to do," and we never get back to them. We never give them something specific. Give them something specific. Say, "I have a doctor's appointment next Tuesday. Can you come and hang out with Mom? Take her out to lunch." Okay? Or I'm going to the gym. I go to the gym or I have one gentleman who plays racquetball every Monday with some friends.
Oh.
And he has family who come in every Monday.
Alzheimer thing in for an hour and I forgot it.
So
I am sending my mother to a daycare under the auspices of being a poetry reader. It's a new Alzheimer's. They've merged with Age Well. So she has no idea other than she's going there to entertain them.
Excellent.
That way, I'm praying that she will.
We tell them that
an
it's
activity.
a social club, which it is, by the way.
Uh-huh.
We never make it about them. It isn't you need this, Mom. It is they need your help.
They need your poetry. They're gonna, and so that'll be her entree in, and she may decide she wants to stay for a half an hour longer or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
She may learn to love daycare. That's how I'm going to introduce her to it.
Great. So, and we have someone else take them if they're going to hassle you, or if they're not going to get in the car. You have a beloved grandchild, or you know what I mean. Have a peer of some sort. Have someone else take them if that's the issue, is getting them in the car. Oh heck no, I'm not going. I don't need to go anywhere. Right? There's lots of tips. See, these are all really good ideas, and we can help you with this. You're already helping each other. Do you all go to a support group? I hope you do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good. Because these are ideas, these are things that support groups can help you with, is getting past the inertia. Any other comments, questions? These are good.
I have a question. Will you tell me the name again of the book and the author?
Oh, Ann Davidson.
Uh-huh.
And she wrote 2 books. One is called Alzheimer's: A Love Story.
Okay.
And the other, A Curious Kind of Widow. The first book is about the first half of the journey, you know, when they got the diagnosis and when he lived at home.
Uh-huh.
And the second book is the second half of the journey, when she decided that he needed to live someplace else and all that.
Okay.
And she's very honest. I'm sure, you know, a lot of you are feeling really guilty about something you said or done, or not said or not done. I think it'll help you feel better, because we're all human.
How do they determine dementia?
Great question. So dementia is a diagnosis where we pull together a lot of information, the person's age, the onset of symptoms, what are the symptoms, are they progressing? And you saw the short list of the major symptoms.
Yes.
You only have to have 2 out of those major symptoms, out of those 5, and be over the age of 65 and have some form of dementia. But there are profound symptoms. It isn't where did I put my keys or which floor did I park on in the parking garage. So don't worry, everybody. It's profound changes.
Okay.
Okay, and then they look for other things. They do blood work. You know, they look for other causes. Could it be the medications you're taking? Is it an infection? Is it a nutritional problem? You know, they just look at the whole person. Is that helpful?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Okay, great. Any other questions? We have a couple more minutes. No? Okay, let me ask you a question. How many of you are going to do something different? How many of you are going to follow some of these suggestions?
Oh, definitely I am. You've helped a lot.
Good. At least I got to one person.
No, you got to me too. I made lots of notes, copious notes, and I'm putting a plan in place even now. Yes.
Excellent. You made my day.
Thank you.
I'm going to try to lean into acceptance and try to reside in serenity and out of the visiting too long and the powerless negatives.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Great work.
Yeah. And I am a paid caregiver, and I do take care of patients with dementia. But within my family, I think my ex-husband is going into dementia, and he's just recently moved in with our daughter. So
I hope you've reached out to us. Have you called us?
I have not, but I'm hoping that she will.
Okay. We can help her through you if that's what it takes. Let me give you the you probably have it.
Yeah,
she will. Number 800. 272.
272.
3900.
Okay.
And that's a 24/7 helpline, and we can help.
Oh, very good. Really? Yes. Because she's
especially
really
at 3 o'clock in the morning. They're really good at 3 a.m.
Well, unfortunately, she's a baker, so she's up at 3 a.m., so she might be giving somebody a call because she's only had her. She's had him now for about 10 days, and yeah, when she picked him up,
we can really help.
Yeah, she was not aware that this was going on when she took him.
Aww.
And it's just, we're hoping that medication, now that you've mentioned medication, that medication and his former living situation is part of it, and we're hoping that he will come out.
Okay.
But if he doesn't, then she needs to find a place for him. So.
And we can help with all of that.
Very good. I will pass this on to her.
Good.
And I came on the call.
Chat here. There's a question in the chat here. They're asking about, is it okay to go to a day center and stay the first time with my mom to get her used to it?
Yes, it is okay. However, most of the day centers, once they get her engaged, once they whisk her away, they're going to push you out the door. And that's a good thing.
Yeah. Okay. I figured it was kind of like when I took my son to preschool on that first day. I have to get over it. Right?
It's true.
Yeah.
I cried when I took my daughter to preschool. I cried all the way to work. And then I called and asked how she was, and I could hear her playing in the background. She had a great time. and it's true for our folks.
Yeah.
Once you leave, they see your face, right? And they're upset. And once you get back, once you go to pick them up, let's say, and they see your face, now they're reminded that you left them. And that now they're angry or upset again, right? But probably the whole time they were probably really good.
Thank you.
I have a question because I came on the call late, about 15, 20 minutes late. Is there a way to replay this?
Yeah, we recorded the webinar today, so I'll email out a link to everyone.
Oh, great. And we could share that with families then?
Yes.
Great.
Good.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Is there time for one more question?
It's okay by me.
So I have, both my parents have dementia. My mom has frontal and my dad has vascular. And I care for my mom mainly, and my father has a 24/7 caregiver. When she starts saying that she hates me, and she sounds very lucid when she tells me why she hates me, how do I respond to that?
I want you to first of all, try not to take it personally. I definitely want you to call us and have a deeper conversation than just this, because I have to rush, okay? But I want you to remove yourself from the situation if you can, or say something like, I'm sorry you feel that way, Mom. I love you. Don't argue with her. You'll lose. Okay, so I think we're out of time. Thank you, everybody. I hope
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone, and we'll email out the recording.
Thank you. Please stand